for hanging in. Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunny Hill. We're delighted that you could join us for this service. Our mission at Sunny Hill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Krista Stanley, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. If you're a newcomer or a visitor to our congregation this morning, please go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says New to Sunny Hill to receive more information about our congregation and to receive our weekly email newsletter. If you're joining us online today, please say hello or good morning in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. We'd like to hear from you and extend a welcome to you as well. Today's service explores issues related to the celebration of Hanukkah. Religious freedom and political resistance are major themes in the story of Hanukkah. In this service, we will explore how and why these themes are just as relevant now as they have ever been. Our opening words were written by Amanda Udis Kessler. When the Holy Temple was rededicated, at the time of the Maccabean liberation battle, only 1 day's worth of oil remained, yet it burned for 8 days. So we light candles in remembrance. We rededicate ourselves to the miracle of light in a season of darkness, to the miracle of trust in a time of anxiety, to the miracle of hope in a time of despair, to the miracle of faith in a time of cynicism. We rededicate ourselves to the miracle of wholeness in a time of fracture, to the miracle of courage in a time of fear, to the miracle of resistance in a time of oppression, to the miracle of peace in a time of violence, and in a time of hatred, we rededicate ourselves to the miracle of love. We light our chalice with these words: so long as a single light illuminates the world's darkness, there will be a joy on earth that empowers our lives.
Because of current COVID transmissions, we are not at a point yet where we can engage in congregational singing. But we invite you to hum along because humming's really good for your voice, and you'll feel good, real joy from hearing the people humming around you and feeling that vibration within yourself.
wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. And the vines, they will grow, and tender leaves will blossom, and the fruit of our hands will be sweet. And the winds that bring change, they will clear away ashes, and all people will go forth to meet. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Good morning, everyone. If I could have the new members come forward right now, please. Just on the first step's probably great. Good. Okay. My name is Bethany Thornton, and I serve as the Membership and Outreach Manager here at Sunny Hill, and I'm so happy to be here this morning to introduce Sunny Hill's newest membership class. So first we have Trish Beckjord, and when Trish decided to retire back to Pittsburgh to be close to her brother's family, Sunny Hill was actually the point around which she drew her driving radius. It helped, of course, that her nephew and his family are in Mount Lebanon, and her sister-in-law is still in Pleasant Hills, where Trish spent much of her time growing up. Trish found Unitarian Universalism through the Ann Arbor congregation shortly after finishing graduate school in the early 2000s and spent a number of years in the UU Church in Geneva, Illinois. In all UU communities, she, like many, has felt instantly welcomed and at home. Trish has found that same sense here at Sunny Hill, where she sings with the choir, enjoys Sunny Hill solo get-togethers, and enjoys meeting others in our religious community through our Soul Matters discussion groups. She would like to say thank you to Reverend Jim, Bethany, and Jen for all your welcoming hearts, and she looks forward to sharing many years as a part of it. Okay, next we have Darla. And Darla has been attending services here at Sunny Hill for about 3 years, and she's been very active in sharing circles, and she's very happy to be joining us this morning. Next we have Marlene Parrish. Marlene is a food and travel journalist. She's now retired, but she still loves to dine out and travel, and especially to visit her 3 sons. Because her husband of 30 years, Robert Wolk, recently passed away, Marlene is grateful for the opportunity to begin a new personal journey here at Sunny Hill. And next we have Roxy Mountjoy and Tyson Sears. And Roxy, Tyson, and Clara are happy to officially become members of Sunny Hill. Roxy first came to Sunny Hill as a child after her mom discovered the church at a wedding. When she returned as an adult, she brought Tyson and Clara with her. All 3 reside in Mount Lebanon and look forward to becoming more active in the congregation. And last but not least, we have the Baldoni family. Jesse and Liz have been proud Dormont residents for the last 10 years. Formerly a teacher, Liz now works at a nonprofit organization that serves children experiencing crisis. Jesse is a pharmacist and musician. After tiring of being indoors and alone due to the pandemic, the family has developed a hobby of hiking trails and even experimented with tent camping. It remains to be seen if the camping part will continue, but they all love exploring the trails. A 3rd grader, Lydia loves ballet and building inventions using recycled materials. Annalise, a kindergartner, can tell you many dinosaur facts and does some convincing impressions too. So welcome, everybody.
Today we welcome into our congregation these new members who have chosen to become a part of this church. We are so glad to have you here with us and delighted that you've chosen to share this part of your journey with us. I have a question to ask you, after which I'll ask you to say, "We will." And it takes a minute for me to get there. Will you accept our gifts of fellowship, mutual support, and service? Will you offer us your unique presence and gifts? And will you work with us as we seek to create a community and a world dedicated to compassion and justice? If so, please say, "We will." Congregation, will you welcome these new members with the warmth and comfort of your fellowship? Will you seek to add your strengths and talents to the new gifts they bring us? And will you share our triumphs and our struggles as our community grows and changes? If so, please say, "We will." I'll now recite these words, which reflect our common purpose and common love in the midst of our diversity of beliefs. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Please join me in welcoming our new members. Thank you.
Good morning, friends. I'm so excited to see so many of you here this morning. I have a special friend who is going to be helping me with our story. We have Miss Heidi with us today. Hi. You excited? Yeah, I'm excited to tell the story with you. All right, so today's story is Lemony Snicket's The Latke Who Couldn't Stop Screaming, and it is a Christmas story. You ready? Yeah. Okay. This story ends in someone's mouth, but it begins in a tiny village, more or less covered in snow. The snow had fallen during the long night, during which children had pressed their faces to the windows, looking for a glimpse of a man who they suspected of bringing them wonderful gifts. But instead, they heard a terrible noise from a certain cottage in the neighborhood arrondissement, a word which here means a place where something was being born. This cottage was already regarded with some suspicion, as it was the only place not decorated with flashing colored lights at this time of year. The thing that was being born was a latke, a word which here means potato pancake. Latkes are a traditional part of the celebration of Hanukkah, a holiday commemorating a miraculous Jewish military victory. Nearly everything in this world is born screaming, and the latke was no exception. Even though the latke wasn't conceived and born the way you and I were conceived and born, instead fashioned from grated potatoes, chopped onion, beaten eggs, and a dash or two of salt. Once these ingredients are properly mixed, the latke was slapped into a pan full of olive oil, heated to a very high temperature, and this is when it began to scream. The latke was suffering so much that it leapt out of the hot pan and out of the window of the cottage and began to run, screaming, down the boulevard. This may seem like unusual behavior for a potato pancake, but this is a Christmas story in which things tend to happen that would never occur in real life. The Latka ran past a window of flashing colored lights, which hung from the rain gutters of a less suspicious cottage. "What's all the ruckus?" said the lights in unison. "We're the ones who are supposed to be dominating the neighborhood with our cheerful glow." "I was just thrown into a pan of boiling oil," the Latka cried in reply. "Can you believe it?" "Yes," said the flashing colored lights, "but we can't imagine why." "Because I'm a Latka," said the Latka. "The olive oil reminds us of the oil used to rededicate the temple following the defeat of Antiochus at the hands of the Maccabees. The oil was only supposed to last for one night, but there was a miracle, and it lasted for 8. Plus, frying makes my skin crispy and brown." "So you're basically hash browns?" said the flashing colored lights. "Maybe you could be served alongside a Christmas ham." "I'm not hash browns," cried the Latka. "I'm something completely different." The Latka rounded the corner and found itself face to face with a candy cane, which wrinkled its red and white nose at the Latka in distaste. "I'm trying to sprinkle the night air with my peppermint scent," the candy cane said. "Your mouth-watering smell, not to mention all that yelping, is spoiling the effect." "My mouth-watering smell is part of the cozy feeling of Hanukkah," the Latka replied. "It reminds us that things are better now than they were in 175 BCE, when my people were not allowed to practice their religion. In order to study the Torah, they had to hide out in caves, and when they heard Greek soldiers approaching, they pretended they were gambling with a small spinning top called a dreidel." "Sort of like Joseph and Mary hiding out in a manger," said the candy cane. "Someone should write a Christmas carol about you." "I'm not part of Christmas," cried the Latka. "It's a totally different thing." What a pro. The screams of the Latka grew quieter and quieter as the pancake ran out of the village into the surrounding forest. Its utter fury was unabated, a phrase which here means the Latka was still very annoyed at the objects to whom it had spoken. But it was quite tired, and so it decided to rest for a few minutes beneath the branches of a little pine tree. The pine tree was napping, but woke up at the sound of the object plopping down at its feet. "Are you a present?" the pine tree asked. "Presents are pretty much the only thing allowed to sit beneath me this time of year." The Latka sighed. "Presents aren't really a big part of Hanukkah," it said in a voice hoarse from screaming. "There's nothing wrong with giving gifts to loved ones, of course, but it's more important to light the candles for 8 consecutive nights, to commemorate the miracle in the temple and the miracle of victory even when you are thoroughly outnumbered, so you shouldn't give up hope. Plus Santa Claus," said the pine tree. The Latka was too exhausted to even scream. "Santa Claus has nothing to do with it," the Latka said. "Christmas and Hanukkah are completely different things." "But different things can often blend together," said the pine tree. "Let me tell you a funny story about pagan rituals." But before the pine tree could begin its story, a family came trooping through the snow, searching the forest carefully. "We shouldn't have waited until the last minute to get ready for the holiday," said the father of the family, who was holding an axe. "We'll never find a good one." "You shouldn't give up hope," said the mother, and pointed at the pine tree. "Look, it's perfect," said the daughter. "Beautiful," agreed the son. "Such a marvelous shape," said the mother. "And its skin looks so crispy," said the father, and reached down and scooped up the Latka from the snow. "We'll need to reheat it, of course, but this will be perfect for Hanukkah dinner, with a topping of applesauce, sour cream, or even jam." "I'll refry it in oil," said the mother, "to remind us of the rededication of the temple and the triumph of the Maccabees over Antiochus," added the daughter. "After hiding in caves all that time," the son chimed in. The father smiled down at the Latka in his mitten and then stared curiously at his other hand. "What was I thinking bringing this axe?" he said to himself. The family strolled back to the village, walking past all the cottages with flashing colored lights and smiling politely at the candy canes until they reached their own home. The family carried the Latka into their own home, which was warm and cozy, and sat down at the table, which was lit with the flickering candles of a menorah, or a Hanukkah, which is a branch candelabra designed specifically for this holiday. It's very frustrating not to be understood in this world. If you say one thing and keep being told that you mean something else, it can make you want to scream. But somewhere in the world, there's a place for all of us. Whether you are an electric form of a decoration, peppermint-scented sweet, a source of timber, or a potato pancake. On a cold, snowy night, everyone and everything should be welcome somewhere. And the latke was welcomed into a home of people who understood what a latke is and how it fits into its particular holiday. And then they ate it.
My name is Mark Mortimer, and I'm the chair of the 2022 Stewardship Campaign. And I just want to do a quick update here as we're in the sort of final stretch over the next couple of weeks here. We began with really just trying to collect all of the 2021 pledges, and there has been significant progress that's been made. We've got just under $50,000 left in fulfilled pledges to collect by the end of this year. We're hoping to get that in over the next 2 weeks, and the 2-week timeline is relevant because we have our annual meeting there. So as we are really looking at our budget for that, we're trying to collect everything from last year, and then based on pledges for 2022, that essentially what will drive our overall budget for that matter. Everything starts with that number, so we've got about a 2-week timeline to get that done. The 2022 campaign is in full swing, and we are about halfway through with it in terms of the number of pledges. So half of you have come forward and committed for 2022, and so thank you for that. It's also, and we're incredibly grateful, and being in this position, it's also very humbling to have seen some of you really step up and make a significant increase in your pledges for this upcoming year, and we are absolutely grateful for that. I would just ask that the other half, if we could just wrap it up in the next 2 weeks, that would be much appreciated. And the last thing I'll leave you with is we've done this since we kicked off the campaign. We've asked some members of the congregation to share with the overall congregation what Sunny Hill means to them and how it relates to their stewardship. And with that, I'll bring up several members of the Klaber clan here, and they're going to speak to that.
Hi, I'm Daisy. I used to be Daisy Klaber, now I'm Daisy Miksch, and this is Charlie Miksch and Jack Miksch, my sons. And standing behind me are my little brother, Ben Klaber, and his daughter, Heidi, one of his 3 kids. I think I feel comfortable speaking for both Ben and me when I say that one of the things we're most grateful for in our lives is that we have parents who are loving and thoughtful and honest, and that's my favorite things about this community that we've found here at Sunny Hill. When we were kids and we were at sporting events or other competitions, all the other parents would be yelling, "Go get him, kill him, murder him," and my mom would be shouting, "Go out there and play with love and joy." And this is a place and a group of people where I feel like we can do that in places outside of sporting events and other competitions. Everything we do here, we do with love and joy, and what helps us be able to do that is that we feel love and joy from you. Authentic joy, not just niceness, not just happiness, authentic, sincere joy whenever we can manifest it in whatever ways we can manifest it for each other. And one of the ways that I feel it and that I express it is by singing in the choir. And singing has been important to me since I was a kid, but there were many years between childhood and adulthood and joining Sunny Hill a little over 2 years ago when I didn't sing in a formal way with a group of adults. And I'm really grateful to have that experience again. Another way is religious education here at Sunny Hill. I'm grateful that my kids get to interact with a village, a community of other adults who share some basic foundational beliefs and viewpoints about the world and who want to share it with my kids. I'm grateful that religious education here isn't the way it was I remember from my childhood church experience, that it was basically the moms teaching the Sunday school classes. And here there are moms, certainly, teaching Sunday school classes, but it's not exclusively the moms. Here there seems to be an understanding that we adults all together and all the kids all together are the community, and that we all have something to give and gain by interacting with each other on a regular basis. And another thing that's related to religious education that I really appreciate is the prioritizing that this congregation puts on providing childcare so that adults who have young children can participate fully in the services and in the activities that happen on other days of the week here at Sunny Hill. It's provided always, it's thought about always, and it's compensated. The people who are providing the childcare are compensated. There's no expectation that, again, the moms are going to be the ones who volunteer to spend time with everybody else's kids and not get a chance to give and gain and interact with the other adults in a full capacity. So that's something I really appreciate about Sunny Hill. My kids and I love volunteering at the pumpkin patch. That's one of our favorite things to do to help raise funds. And we love the playground that's been created here. That's a concrete place and way for us, yes, to play with love and joy. And Ben wants to say a few words about one aspect of the religious education program, which is the coming of age program.
Thanks, Daisy. And I also want to say hi to Mary, Noah, and Ari at home. One of the main reasons we're here today is because when we left our prior church a few years ago, Ari felt like she might be missing something, so she asked us if we could just check out some other places and see if there was a different fit for our family. And so we heard about Sunny Hill and how it's such a welcoming place, no matter who you are, no matter who you love, and that was very important to us. And quickly we felt the connection here. Sometimes Heidi and I would come here just to sit, drink tea, and say hello to a few people and then go home because it's like an extension of our home and our family. And I get to see my sister and my mom more than I used to now, and so it's become an important part of our life. And so even on its own, that's incredibly meaningful and important just to have a Zen place to come to every week. No matter what else happens that week, we have Sunny Hill to look forward to. But we realize Sunny Hill is also more than that. And so the Coming of Age program, I think, is a great example. We're all on a spiritual, compassionate journey together. In my own experience, when I was sort of a kid and sort of becoming an adult, and it was time to join the church we were in, I sort of played along. It was something I was kind of expected to do just in case someday I wanted to be a member of that church. And I said the magic words and checked the box to become a member. I think it's totally different here. We were blown away the first time we saw young people get up right here and say, after a year of reflection, this is what's important to them. This is their perspective on life. And now our son, Noah, is in the program. He has a mentor who's just a member of the community volunteering to help him ask those big questions. And it's not an all or nothing. I believe exactly what I'm told to believe, or I don't. It's in between. There's a lot of room for growth and reflection, and Mary is on the other side. She's acting as a mentor, so it's a beautiful place, beautiful community to be a part of. So we're very grateful. Thank you.
If you're watching from home and are noticing that we have people in the sanctuary today, we're thankful that we got some people to agree to be guinea pigs today and to be our first official live crew in person in the sanctuary in quite some time. So we're grateful to everyone who is here. We're grateful for everyone who is watching online. Watch out for our RSVP system, which will be put in place this coming week for next Sunday's service, the 12th, and then going forward. This is a time in our service when we share joys and sorrows that have been submitted by members of the congregation. After each joy or sorrow that I read, please respond by saying, "We hold you in our hearts." A sorrow from Angela Klein. Angela says, "Well, clumsy me, had a bad fall last week, broken left leg and left wrist. The joy part is that I don't need surgery, but it's not going to keep me from attending the indoor reopening of Sunny Hill," she says. To Angela, we hold you in our hearts. A joy from Hank and Lee Kretschmar, which I may have shared last week as well. They say, "We celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary yesterday, December 4th. To the Kretschmars, we hold you in our hearts." A sorrow from Jean Furlan. Jean says, "My niece's 2-year-old is on life support at a hospital in Tucson. He has several viral infections, not COVID, and a partially collapsed lung. Please send love to Connor and his family." To Jean and to Connor and family, we hold you in our hearts. A sorrow from Pat Murray. Pat says, "Mira, our gray and white lovely cat of about 17 years, left us Monday, November 29th. Pittsburgh Pets at Home came to assist in her continuation day. Joe and Gia, my kid, buried her body in our backyard, but her spirit will remain with us. To Pat and Joe and family, we hold you in our hearts." Please join me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Where is the light when the world is in darkness? Where is the light of justice at a time when injustice screams from newspaper headlines and TV screens? Where is the light of wisdom and understanding when shouting matches have eclipsed conversations? Where is the light of health and wholeness when friends and family struggle with illness? Where is the light of caring and companionship when millions of people are bereft and lonely? Where is the light of generosity when so many needs are unmet? Where is the light of love in a world ruled by fear? We pause for a moment of silence to consider where we find light, even in the most trying of times. Perhaps hope is too much to count on when the world seems cloaked in darkness. Perhaps instead, the slightest spark of possibility hidden somewhere in our deepest being might emerge when we join it with the sparks of possibility from others. Perhaps together we might kindle with our separate sparks, a greater light, a light that brings hope and transformation to a world that hungers for both. May we kindle these sparks with one another whenever we gather together. May what we share illumine not just what is, but what may be, that we might work toward a world where justice reigns and compassion moves like a great wave of light, warming and lifting all in its wake. May it be so. Amen. As you may know, tonight marks the 8th night of Hanukkah. Although it's never been actually considered a major religious holiday like Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, Hanukkah does have great significance for Jews and non-Jews alike. The story of Hanukkah does not appear in the Torah or in any part of the Hebrew Bible. Instead, the story comes from the books of the Maccabees, which can be found in Catholic and Orthodox Christian Bibles, but are considered apocryphal or non-canonical books in most Protestant Christian traditions and in Judaism itself. Although Hanukkah traditions and rituals are described at some length in the Talmud, the central text of Rabbinic Judaism. But the story of Hanukkah and the Maccabees is a rare instance of a piece of Jewish religious and cultural history having been preserved and handed down by the Christian church rather than by Jewish religious authorities or sources. And many of the most popular and cherished Hanukkah traditions, including those centered around the miracle of the oil lasting 8 days, were actually tacked on to the story at least a couple of hundred years after the events described in the books of the Maccabees took place. Nevertheless, the original story of Hanukkah is very much relevant to people of all religious and ethnic backgrounds and has never been more relevant than it is today. In 175 BCE, a despotic ruler named Antiochus IV seized control of the Seleucid Empire, a Greek-speaking empire that descended from the rule of Alexander the Great. During the time of Antiochus, Judea, the Jewish homeland, was a part of the Seleucid Empire. In the words of Rabbi Daniel Ruttenberg, In a fury about a humiliating loss in Egypt, Antiochus cracked down in Judea, outlawing observance of the Sabbath and defiling the temple by erecting an altar to Zeus there, complete with the sacrifice of pigs. He sent his officers to slay and destroy with an agenda that was less about Hellenism, that is, the demand that the Judeans assimilate into the kingdom's dominant Greek-influenced culture, than it was about denationalization, a full eradication of their way of life. In other words, Antiochus was carrying out an extreme imperial agenda that left no room for the identity or the values of oppressed and marginalized groups within the larger empire. Some say that the Maccabees who emerged in opposition to Antiochus were fighting against assimilation, against their ethnic and religious identity being swallowed up into the Hellenistic Seleucid Empire. But perhaps it's more accurate to say that the Maccabees rose up in opposition to an attempt on the part of Antiochus to erase Jewish culture and Jewish life altogether. In any case, this group of Jewish zealots, the Maccabees, took to the hills in an act of resistance and engaged in guerrilla warfare with Antiochus and the Seleucid Empire. Although the Maccabees were greatly outnumbered, their knowledge of the Judean terrain and their strategic and tactical skills enabled them over the course of several years to push back the Seleucid Empire and to gain freedom for the people of Judea. The real miracle of Hanukkah was that against all odds, a greatly outnumbered, marginalized group was able to resist and fight back against the idea that their faith was an acceptable target for those in power. The Hanukkah story has special poignance, significance, and meaning here and now in the United States, and particularly here in Pittsburgh, as just a couple of months ago we commemorated the third year anniversary of the shootings at the Tree of Life Synagogue. And here in Mount Lebanon, there have been several recent instances of drawings of swastikas appearing in the restrooms and hallways of a local middle school. Although these drawings are primarily the result of adolescent attention-seeking behaviors, they do cause harm each time they occur. And it is important to continue to educate our children about why such behaviors are wrong. But the story of resistance that is at the heart of the Hanukkah story has always held great power, and sometimes the mere act of displaying the Hanukkah menorah has been a defiant act of courage in the face of hatred and oppression. As described in a recent New York Times article, one of the essential components of Hanukkah is persume nisa, or the publicizing of the miracle. The Talmud contains detailed guidelines of how to publicize the miracle of Hanukkah, with extensive commentary on where the menorah should be placed so that it would be most visible to people walking by. The rabbis wanted to make sure that people lit their candles and displayed them in their windows where they would be highly visible. There's one more crucial detail the rabbis insisted on. In a time of danger, they said, the lighting of the Hanukkah candles can take place further inside one's home, on one's table, away from the window and away from the gaze of the hostile outside world. In the town of Kiel, Germany in 1932, as the Nazis were rising to power, Rabbi Akiva Posner and his wife, Rachel, lit a menorah and placed it in their front window for all the world to see, even though it would certainly have been acceptable, given the imminent danger they faced, to have placed the menorah in some less visible place in their home. As it happened, they lived directly across from a government building that displayed the Nazi flag. And Rachel Posner took a now famous photograph which poignantly shows the juxtaposition of the Posner's menorah with the swastika in the background. The menorah's light and the meaning behind it was made all the more incandescent, given the symbol of hatred against Jews hanging from the building just across the street. On the back of this photograph, Rachel Posner scribbled in German, "Death to Judah, so the flag says. Judah will live forever, so the light answers." For 51 weeks of the year, their menorah belongs to Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. But each year, right before Hanukkah, the family takes the menorah back and puts it to good use. Akiva Baruch Mansbach, Rabbi Posner's great-grandson, lights the menorah every year. As he says, the same light that my great-grandparents lit in Germany is the light that so many kindle today all over the world. It demonstrates the continuity of Jewish history. Here in the United States, Hanukkah and the menorah also have a rich and meaningful history. Religious studies professor Diane Ashton writes, "For the 2.3 million Jewish immigrants who entered the U.S. between 1881 and 1924, providing their children with gifts in December proved they were becoming American and obtaining a better life. But by giving those gifts at Hanukkah instead of adopting Christmas, they also expressed their own ideals of American religious freedom, as well as their own dedication to Judaism." After World War II, many Jews relocated from urban centers. Suburban Jewish children often comprised small minorities in public schools and found themselves sometimes coerced to participate in Christmas assemblies. Teachers, administrators, and peers often pressured them to sing Christian hymns and assert statements of Christian faith. From the 1950s through the 1980s, as Jewish parents argued for their children's right to freedom from religious coercion, they also embellished Hanukkah. Suburban synagogues expanded their Hanukkah programming. Jewish families embellished domestic Hanukkah celebrations with decorations, nightly gifts, and holiday parties to enhance Hanukkah's impact. In suburbia, Hanukkah's theme of dedication to Judaism shone with special meaning. Hanukkah accomplishes many tasks. Amid Christmas, it reminds Jews of Jewish dedication, and it reminds all of us of the power of resistance, of keeping a flame alive, even in the darkest of times. As stated in a recent Washington Post article, Hanukkah has always had a varied and competing narratives depending on the era and the specific Jews celebrating. In the decades after the founding of the State of Israel, after World War II and the Holocaust, there was an emphasis on the power of the small band of fighters at the center of the story. The holiday's theme of the few versus the many became a focus in the early decades of the new small state of Israel, often at war with its many neighbors, said Rabbi Moshe Auer, executive president of the Orthodox Union. Many saw that as part of the Hanukkah they related to. There were explicit lines drawn between the Maccabees and the emerging Jewish warrior. In a recent interview, Rabbi Hera Person, chief executive of the Central Conference of American Rabbis, spoke of Hanukkah as an affirmation of Jewish resistance and resilience. After the Tree of Life shooting, Person said, "There is more of a determination to really celebrate our distinctiveness as Jews and our identity as a people. We have to really be proud of who we are as Jews and affirm that loudly and clearly and not be cowed or scared to be Jewish." She continued, "There's also an affirmation of our values, our Jewish values. Loving the stranger, helping the stranger, caring for the vulnerable. That we won't be scared into submission or scared to go against the values that we hold dear to us, like supporting immigrants." And of course, over the past couple of years, the incalculable losses caused by the pandemic have created even greater challenges for everyone and have thrown us into even greater darkness and in even greater need of holidays that bring light into our lives. Person said that she's been framing Hanukkah celebrations in the past several years as, let's come together and bring some light into the darkness and bring some love and some joy into times that are otherwise bleak. So this year, as we remember Hanukkah, I hope and pray that we will do so in the spirit of faithful resistance to the forces of fear, hatred, and bigotry, wherever they may appear, whenever and however they may manifest themselves, and that we will make room for light and joy in our hearts amid the darkness of the world. May it be so. Amen.
It's now time for our offering. Today's designated offering will support JFCS Refugee and Immigrant Services of Pittsburgh. JFCS Refugee and Immigrant Services has worked with thousands of individuals and families over the years, helping them create new lives in our community after escaping unimaginable circumstances. From resettling newly arriving refugees to connecting people with critical resources for acclimating to live in our country. JFCS is with their clients through every step of their journey. In the wake of the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan, JFCS has committed to help refugees from Afghanistan settle in the Pittsburgh area. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so in one of two ways. You can go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says Online Giving and then follow the instructions. Once you get to the drop-down menu, just choose either Designated Collections if you're giving to JFCS or 2021 Pledge Collections for payments toward your pledge. Or you can give by text at 412-324-3130. Just dial that number using your smartphone and follow the instructions. You can also mail a check if you prefer, and you can find our mailing address on our website at sunnyhill.org. Thank you so much for your generosity.
I want to thank Daisy Mick for helping us out with the music today. It's been a pleasure. This one please feel free to hum, clap, dance. I think we're going to bring in some guest dancers to help us with this one in just a second. This is Happy Joyous Hanukkah.
happy, joyous Hanukkah.
8 are the nights of Hanukkah. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the days and 8 are the nights. Happy, joyous Hanukkah.
How many candles do I light?
Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the candles you should light for happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the nights of Hanukkah. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the days and 8 are the nights. Happy, joyous Hanukkah.
One for the Moses on the mount.
Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 2 for the mother and father love. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the nights of Hanukkah. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the days and 8 are the nights. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. Read for the books that Ezra taught. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 4's for the Hebrew children. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the nights of Hanukkah. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the days and 8 are the nights. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. Five for the brothers Maccabee. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 6 for the tricks that King did play. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the nights of Hanukkah. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the days and 8 are the nights. Happy, joyous Hanukkah.
Seven for the sons of Hannah that died, not so happy Hanukkah. 8 for the new built altar place, happy, joyous Hanukkah.
8 are the nights of Hanukkah. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the days and 8 are the nights. Happy, joyous Hanukkah.
Nine is the light of God that shines, happy, joyous Hanukkah.
Around this whole wide world tonight. Happy, joyous Hanukkah.
9 is for God's light that shines.
8 for the new built altar place.
7 for the sons of Hannah that died.
6 for the kings and the tricks they tried.
5 for the brothers Maccabee.
4 for the Hebrew children. 3 for the books that Ezra taught.
2 for the father and mother love.
And 1 for the Moses on the mount. 8 are the nights of Hanukkah. Happy, joyous Hanukkah. 8 are the days and 8 are the nights. Happy, joyous Hanukkah.
That was fun. Please join me in saying the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
We'll close with these words, The Miracle of Hanukkah by Mark Bellatini. The miracle is not that the oil lasts, but that our hope lasts, despite disappointment. Baruch atah tikva, blessed are you, hope. The miracle is not that fire illumines, but that we grow brighter. Baruch atah Zohar, blessed are you, brightness. The miracle is not that people tell ancient stories, but that people dare to live their own stories. Baruch atah Midrashim, blessed are you, stories. The miracle is not that tyranny is resisted, but that resistance recreates us into new beings. Baruch atah Chadash, blessed are you, new being. The miracle is not that courage exists, but that courage does not every time have to ball itself into a fist. Baruch atah Chayil, blessed are you, courage. Go in hope, go in brightness, go in courage, go in peace.